The aftermath of World War II saw a Japan in transition, grappling with reconstruction and political realignment. Against the backdrop of the Cold War, a shadowy struggle unfolded as communist elements sought to gain influence and potentially take control of Japan. This article explores the complex and often covert efforts made by communists to extend their reach in Japan during the 1950s, a critical period in the early Cold War era. 1. Post-war Japan, a nation in flux. In the wake of its defeat in World War II, Japan underwent profound transformations under the Allied occupation. Economic reforms, political restructuring, and the establishment of a constitutional monarchy marked the nation's journey towards a democratic system. 2. Communist Party of Japan (CPJ) Emergence and Ideology. The Communist Party of Japan (CPJ) emerged as a prominent political force during this time. With a fervent ideology rooted in Marxist-Leninist principles, the CPJ sought to challenge the established political order and advocate for a more socialist Japan. 3. Land reform and labor movements. Communist catalysts. The CPJ strategically aligned itself with key issues affecting the post-war Japanese society. Land reform and labor movements became the focal points of communist agitation, as the party sought to rally farmers and workers discontented with the existing socio-economic structures. 4. Zengakuren, student activism and communist influence. Student activism played a pivotal role in communist attempts to sway public opinion. The formation of Zengakuren, a radical leftist student organization with ties to the CPJ, fueled anti-establishment sentiments and contributed to a growing atmosphere of dissent on university campuses. 5. Security Treaty protests. Communists at the forefront. The signing of the U.S.-Japan Security Treaty in 1951 became a flashpoint for communist activism. The CPJ, alongside other leftist groups, spearheaded protests against what they perceived as a capitulation to Western imperialism. These protests marked a critical juncture in the communist attempt to influence public sentiment. 6. Internal struggles and international alignments. Internally, the CPJ grappled with ideological divisions and debates over collaboration with the Soviet Union. Simultaneously, the international alignment of the CPJ with the global communist movement, particularly the Soviet Union and China, shaped its strategies and actions within Japan. 7. Election strategies. The electoral arena as a battleground. The CPJ engaged in electoral politics to gain influence within the system. While facing challenges such as government restrictions on communist activities, the party strategically fielded candidates in elections to secure parliamentary seats and utilize the democratic process to advance its agenda. 8. Government crackdown and anti-subversive measures. As communist influence grew, the Japanese government responded with anti-subversive measures. Surveillance, arrests, and legal actions were taken against communist leaders and activists. The government aimed to curb what it perceived as a threat to the democratic order. 9. The decline of communist influence, factors and consequences. Over the course of the 1950s, communist attempts to take over Japan faced numerous challenges. Internal divisions, government crackdowns, and a changing global political landscape contributed to the decline of communist influence. By the end of the decade, the CPJ found itself marginalized in Japanese politics. 10. Legacy. The impact of communist attempts on Japan's political landscape. The article concludes by reflecting on the enduring impact of communist attempts to take over Japan in the 1950s. While the CPJ did not achieve its goal of revolutionizing the country, its influence left a lasting imprint on Japanese politics, contributing to the shaping of ideological debates and political alignments in the years to come. In exploring the communist attempts to take over Japan during the 1950s, this article unveils a chapter of Cold War history marked by ideological struggle, political activism, and the delicate balance between democracy and dissent in post-war Japan.